Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Dear viewers, listeners, students, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are fine and staying safe and taking good care of yourselves. Inshallah ta'ala, today the topic that we will be doing is of a very great significance. And if you are able to join me here and understand me, you will be able to get rid of lots of confusions, not only in the short term, in understanding this topic, not only in the exams, but also in the future of your life. Because this is a subject which is touched upon or which is near to the heart of every Muslim. And some people try to make some disrespect to the great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Talking about is the Caliphate of Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu is the third Caliph, as we have already studied the first Caliph, the second Caliph, and the third Caliph, that is Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and the fourth Caliph, Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala. If you have any questions, just write it down in the comments of this video. So what we have learned so far is that Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu remained as a caliph. His time as a caliph was very good, prosperous, particularly the first 7 to 8 years were great. But then as he gradually, the time moved forward, the conspirators, the conspiracies of the people against the Muslim empire increased. And because of those conspiracies, then we see that it eventually leads to Caliph negotiating with these people. And then the same people then surrounded the house of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the third Caliph, and eventually resulting in the martyrdom that they attacked the house of Sayyidina Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and in that attack, Sayyidina Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala, in the assassination attack, Sayyidina Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu got martyred, and the wife of Sayyidina Uthman was also injured. So Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was being buried, and he's buried in Jannatul Baqi. And now the next phase, the next big question mark now is that who's going to be the next Caliph? Who's going to be the next Caliph? So that's a big question now. And the Sahaba Kiram Ridwanullahum Ajma'een dealt with this nicely. And but the conspirators on the other side, they were, what do you call it, were not sitting just and doing nothing. What do you call it? They came up with their own cunning plans as well. Another thing I want to, before I move on, and then then we learn step by step about Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. On the screen is going to be the time period of all the four rightly guided caliphs. The first is Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, the second is Sayyidina Umar, the third is Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan, and the fourth is Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib. If you notice, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu remained caliph from 632 to 634. That is 11 AH to 13 AH. Sayyidina Umar from 634 to 644. That is 13 AH to 23 AH. Sayyidina Osman from 644 to 656. That is 23 Hijrah to 35 Hijrah. And Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib from 656 AD to 661 AD. That is 35 Hijrah to 40 Hijrah of Sayyidina Ali. So today what we're discussing is the Caliphate of Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So this we are discussing today. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, please write it down in the comments of the video. Then we move on to the pre-election situation. Number one, after the martyrdom of Sayyidina Osman, now there are three pressure groups, electoral pressure groups formed, but unfortunately were deeply infiltrated by the insurgents, meaning that all the three groups that were formed, they had the presence of the insurgents in them, the conspirators, the ones who were conspiring against the Muslim empire, the ones who didn't want to see Muslim empire growing. Now, let's see those three groups. The first is called Egyptian group. Now, if you notice, Ammar bin Yasir is a companion, he's a Sahabi Rasul. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, again a Sahabi Rasul, the son of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Abdullah bin Sabah, these people supported Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu to be the caliph. Let's see the next one. The Kufan, there was a group in Kufa. They supported Zubair bin Awam radiallahu ta'ala. So Zubair bin Awam radiallahu ta'ala who was being supported by the Kufans. Then we have the Basran group, that is the Basran group wanted Talha bin Ubaidullah. So we got three groups here now. First one, Egyptian. Second, the Kufan. The third, the Basran. The Basran group supported Sayyidina Talha bin Ubaidullah. The Kufan group supported Sayyidina Zubair bin al-Awwam. Right? Clear about this? Now, a question arises. Why these companions like Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Talha, Sayyidina Zubair wanted the support? All right, before I move on, what I would like you to do is that just quickly write down these the keywords which are in red, right? And I'll give you for this another 40 All right, everyone. So this was the pre-election situation. There were three groups, and you have just we talked about them. Now, this is something important to remember when we move on to this part. That remember the companions of the Holy Prophet ﷺ were over and above from any sort of desire or a greed. Rasulullah ﷺ warned them of the great responsibilities of government and the dire consequences, even unintentional failure to fulfill them, right? Even you're doing it in, your intention is not to do anything bad, but the bad things will happen. You have to face them. So that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told his beloved companions. Now, the next thing which is important to understand is so this concept which I just shared with you, that's something of great significance actually. And now let's look at the election. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was of the opinion that Sayyidina Talha or Sayyidina Zubair should be elected as Caliph. But the conspirators came very quickly. They came, when they saw that now Sayyidina Osman is martyred. So, and it was Zil-Hijjah, and many of the companions went for the Hajj. So they straightforward come to Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Ali, we elect you as the Caliph. So please go ahead. Sayyidina Ali said, who are you to elect me as a Caliph? And they were a little startled. So they were expecting that Sayyidina Ali wanted, the status and to be the Caliph. And so Sayyidina Ali will accept this. Now, in that act of the insurgents, what they were looking at, if Sayyidina Ali becomes the Caliph before the senior companions come back from the Hajj, so there'll be another dispute. So there'll be further chaos and anarchy. So that plan didn't went well, thanks to Sayyidina Ali's wisdom. Sayyidina Ali said, when the Badri Sahaba, that was his answer, by the way. So they immediately said, okay, who's going to select it then? Right? Like, sometimes we do it as well. Sayyidina Ali's response was, the Badri Sahaba will do it. Who are you to do it? And then, so in the 21st Zil-Hajj, on the 35 Hijrah, Sayyidina Ali in 656 was elected as the first rightly guided Caliph. And the growing pressure of the rebels were there. Please take your notes as we go along and just jot down the keywords that they'll be of real great use to us. So the first one, Sayyidina Ali assumed power perhaps in the most difficult times, one of the most difficult times Islam has in the history of Muslims. And the capital was Medina. There was a terror, there was a chaos everywhere, anarchy, right? And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu had been cleverly cultivated by a large team of insurgents who had thousands of alien agents. So these insurgents who we've been talking about, they're not somebody who just sprang up, right? But just all of a sudden, there's so many people came and they said, oh, we are against the Muslim empire or the Caliphate and all that. No, they remember that they lost the Syria, the Persian Empire. They lost the Roman parts of Roman Empire. They lost the Egyptian Empire. So do you think all these people who were there, they're going to say, all right, so now on, we're going to be with the Muslims now? No. So some of them accepted Islam and they went along, but some of them accepted Islam or they lived with their own religion, but from the inside of their heart, they were looking for an opportunity to harm the Muslims. So that was something. And then the strong protests also arose. Now, this is another problem, Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Ali, when he came to be a caliph, he faced a mountain of challenges. So many challenges he faced. And the strong protests were made in all quarters to punish these terrorists who martyred Sayyidina Osman radiallahu. So this was and that was a genuine demand, because to a Muslim, who we're talking about, Osman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala, this point, right? So this point is something we will see that it will divide the Muslims as well, right? So it looks, how can this point, because Sayyidina Osman was a caliph and he was killed and his killers should be punished. Simple. What's the big deal in there? But it's not that simple, right? The equation here is not just 1 + 1, right? There is lots of fractions out here, and there are lots of insurgents who are trying in every step to destabilize the equation, right? Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, on the other hand, had different priorities, and to him, consolidation and reorganization of the empire was priority number 1, right? So that was a challenge. So now you see, Sayyidina Ali wanted stability, consolidation, reorganization, whereas there is a large amount of people who wanted that the killers of Sayyidina Osman should be killed. Now, the question arises here, what's the harm in there? Why can't Sayyidina Ali did that? Like, is that a difficult thing to do? Yes, it is a difficult thing to do. The reason being that Sayyidina Osman radiallahu ta'ala had, he was an influential figure, and many of his own clan members, the tribal members, were there in different parts of the, in key posts or key positions. So that was Sayyidina Osman's support. The other problem was, which Sayyidina Ali was facing, was that if he persecute the killers of Sayyidina Osman, is definitely among the insurgents, and they are around Medina Munawwara, and many people know them. So what's the big deal? The problem is that if Sayyidina Ali would have taken care of the killers, they're around, they're still in Medina, they're quite in number, they are disturbing things a lot. As a reaction, you know, it would have created further anarchy, 1. Secondly, the way they killed Sayyidina Osman radiallahu ta'ala, the way they martyred Sayyidina Osman, they may have done the same to Sayyidina Ali. Now, some of you say, oh, Sayyidina Ali wasn't, the Sahabas were not afraid of death and all that, and they were all willing and they're fighting in the way of Allah. Yes, I'm not doubting that. No way. Ma'azallah. But the problem is that Sayyidina Ali is the leader of the kingdom. So he needs to stabilize things. He needs to bring things to norm. So that's his responsibility. That's what he has to do. And in this regard, now, in order to do that, the plan or the steps that he came up with, that he dismissed all the governors. We know that Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Osman had the governors of different, the provinces. Each province had a governor that was appointed by the Caliph. So, so he dismissed all of them. So he said, okay, we got to reorganize. So he dismissed them. But that wasn't a good, that looked to be a good step, but that didn't prove good. The reason being, because many of his nominees, particularly in Kuta and Syria, the one who were appointed for Kuta and Syria, these people were not able to even enter into that. And this, instead of resolving the situation, aggravated the situation further. How it aggravated? You see, in Kufa, we know that Kufa and Basra is the stronghold of Sayyidina Zubair and Sayyidina Talha. And also, the insurgents were there, they're strong. And Sayyidina Muawiya radiallahu was appointed in the time of Sayyidina Usman. No. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. So he had a great command over that time, over that area. So, and this situation then eventually led to the civil war, the first civil war in Islam. So, so this is the situation so far. Let me have a look that anyone has. Okay. I'm seeing some questions. Okay, what we'll do is I want you to take some notes of this, right? Let me erase those which are, you know, that so that it makes it clear for you. If you are, let me erase this. So just take some notes of this, and before we go on to the Battle of Jamal. So just go through that again. I give you 2 minutes or something to go through that. If you have any questions, ask me, please. And as you all know, if you have any question, you can write it down. Some of you are writing the questions down, but write down the questions regarding the topic that you have in the chat of the video, right? So I give you 2 minutes to just go through that. If you got any question, I give you 2 minutes for that. Some of you have said that you can't hear me properly. Please do let me know. Otherwise, it could be a problem with your internet. Okay, mashallah. So there must be many more people there. I'm just seeing the response of few people. So those who are all right, the time's over. So you must have taken your all right, mashallah. So we move on now to the Battle of Jamal. Battle of Jamal is an unfortunate event that happened, and that's what we call it the first civil war among the Muslims, or the first civil war of Islam. Uh, this is an unfortunate event. And when we talk of a battle or of a war, many of us think that, okay, it's going to be, two sides that don't like each other, and they would get rid of the other one and gain the ground, or gain the land and gave the wealth. There's always a purpose to that. But the interesting thing is, the Sahaba don't want to fight. On both sides are Sahaba. Let's see who are the sides first, and then inshallah ta'ala will further talk about it. So the question that I raised here is that, do Sahaba wants to fight? One. The second question is that why then they fought, right? So that why they fought with each other, that is a 4 marks question actually. So let's find out. Dissatisfied with the pace of events regarding the action taken against the Sayyidina Umar's assassins. Remember point 3 in the last slide? So now that point 3 is becoming a big issue now, right? A 15,000 army marched towards Basra in August 656. Aisha radiallahu anha herself led an army which was flanked by Talha and Sayyidina Zubair radiallahu anhu. Now, Sayyidina Aisha, we don't know much of a history of her being a fighter and being a general or being a leader. No, we don't have. So how come she all of a sudden became a leader? Very interesting question. The answer to that is that we know that where Sayyidina Zubair bin al-Awwam and Sayyidina Talha's support is Kufa and Basra. Very good. So Basra and Kufa, so they basically went to those areas, and they went to Sayyida Aisha. They said, Mother, look, we don't like this, what's happening. And, we should help Sayyidina Ali to do something and bring peace. And there's a lot of chaos, and, we need to sort it out. Sayyida Aisha was very active in those days. So Talha and Sayyidina Zubair radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they said, Sayyida, you come with us. So we visited those areas, and we will bring stability to those areas, and then we'll go towards eventually, towards the part of the Iraq, and then we'll come back to Medina Munawwara, and everything will be sorted. So there are 2 areas actually which immediately become a problem area for Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the new problems. One is Sayyidina Talha and Sayyidina Zubair from Basra and Kufa, and the other are Sayyidina Muawiya radiallahu anhu in Syria, right? So this is the army entered into Basra and putting as many 600 rebels to death. And the newly appointed governor, Uthman bin Hanif, had to flee. So therefore, what do you call it now? It was under Sayyidina Talha and Sayyidina Zubair. And in the meantime, as I was saying to you, that Sayyidina Ali was preparing an army, because somebody said to Sayyidina Ali that, look, Muawiya radiallahu ta'ala anhu has left Damascus or Damascus with a big army towards Medina. The question is, why Sayyidina Muawiya left? I come across some narrations. This is very interesting. Sayyidina Muawiya wrote 3 letters to Sayyidina Ali. And those letters didn't reach Sayyidina Ali. They reached Medina Munawwara, but the insurgents got them, and they didn't let it go to Sayyidina Ali. The letter was that, Ali, I heard that there is a lot of difficulty you're facing in Medina Munawwara. There's an anarchy as after Osman's killing, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And so I am here. Sayyidina Muawiya, remember, was very strong there. He had a grip because he was a leader for a long time. In the region, he had a good grip as well. He was popular there as well. And that was one of the reasons why Sayyidina Muawiya said, I'm not going to leave it. Because that means if Sayyidina Muawiya leaves, this area becomes little, not little, quite a troublesome area, right? So I want you to quickly note down these. And if you have any questions still here, ask me the questions in the chat, please. Right, everyone. Let's move on. So now Sayyidina Muawiya radiallahu anhu, when as that's where we stopped. Sayyidina Muawiya, when he got no response from Sayyidina Ali, so he must thought that Ali is in great trouble. So I should go and help Ali. Because remember, like to us, they are great companions, but to themselves, they are like, friends to each other. To us, this is Ali karamallahu wajhahul kareem. To Sayyidina Muawiya, it was Ali. It is Sayyidina Muawiya radiallahu ta'ala anhum. To Sayyidina Ali, it was Muawiya. So they are just like brothers to each other. And so Sayyidina Muawiya moved towards Sayyidina Ali with him because he's moving there. He said, if there is I don't have C-130s and all that to bring my army to there. Right. So he had to, in those days, they had to bring the army with them if they need to sort something out. So he had the army with him, and the objective was to support Sayyidina Ali. Right. And so does Sayyidina Usman's matter out. This was something burning because Sayyidina Usman is Sayyidina Muawiya's relative as well. Right. So there is that option there as well. And for Sahabas, these, although the being a relative or these relationships were above their matters of faith and all that, but this was an important issue. And then without any doubt, Sayyidina Usman was a great person, was a great Sahabi. He's the one who's among 10 blessed companions. He is Usman Zun Nurain. He's the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Rasulullah got him, two of the daughters of Rasulullah got married to Sayyidina Usman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. It's the same Sayyidina Usman who contributed a lot to the establishment of Islam financially, and when he was a caliph, he contributed a lot. So this was the situation, and so Muawiya radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he moved forward and to rescue Sayyidina Ali actually. The insurgents, on the other hand, they gave the news that Sayyidina Ali, Muawiya radiallahu anhu is coming to attack you, because he didn't take your bayah. Why he didn't take bayah or allegiance? As it says, that because he said that Sayyidina Ali first should take care of Sayyidina Usman's assassins, then I'll do something. I'll accept you. This was a dispute which is there, and he diverted his attention towards Basra instead of Sayyidina Muawiya's and Aisha radiallahu anha's forces in October 656. The negotiation between the two parties began. Now that's very interesting, that if Sayyidina Talha was against Sayyidina Ali, if Sayyidina Aisha was against Sayyidina Ali, why the negotiation started? They wanted a battle, so they come and fight. No, they started negotiations because the Sahaba Kiram were not interested in status, in great wealth or something, or these worldly things. They were not interested in this. They were doing this just because for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And both the parties agreed, and in December 656, so negotiations happened, agreement reached that we will not fight. Yeah. So if they agreed, then how come they fight? They had a battle then. How come it's the first civil war? That's the next point. Certainly not in favor of rebels. Because what the rebels wanted, they wanted fight, because they bought Sayyidina Talha from Kufa and Sayyidina Ali from Medina to fight each other. Right. Here, what happened? They said, no problem, we'll work together. Right. This was a big setback. The band of insurgents, some of the insurgents, they met and they said, what we're going to do is that, remember in those days, the fighting used to take place in the day. They said at night time, we will attack Sayyida Aisha's camp. Right. And this will create confusion. So they will attack, obviously, the Sayyidina Ali's camp, and this way we'll start the battle. And that actually happened. So the battles, unfortunately, started this way, courtesy the insurgents. And that in that battle, Sayyidina Zubair radiallahu anhu was killed during the combat. Some say that he was attacked from behind. So how come the enemy is in front and you were attacked from behind? That is also an evidence that insurgents actually were focused on getting rid of those key figures who could be any time cause any problem to these insurgents. And Sayyidina Talha received fatal wounds, and because of those wounds, Sayyidina Talha later died as a martyr. And Aisha radiallahu anhu's own camel was finally, because Sayyida Aisha's camel was acting as a standard, right? You know, standard, the flag, and till the time the flag is up, the army is up. When the flag goes down, the army goes down. So in here, Sayyida Aisha was also issuing instructions and was the focal point, because there's a mother of the believers there, right? So Sayyidina Ali saw that and he said, okay, whose camel is that? They said Sayyida Aisha's. He said, cut the legs of the camel. And that's what happened, because Sayyidina Ali said, if the camel comes down, the war will come, or the battle will come to a halt, right? And that's why it is known as Battle of Jamal or Camel. Sayyida Aisha withdrew. Now, this is something interesting as well. Again, if they were fighting against, if they, and Ma'azallah, hated each other, Sayyida Aisha, you know, when the camel came down, she was respectfully taken to Sayyidina Ali. She was honored and she was given way to Medina Munawwara. And there were people who accompanied. So Sayyida was given respect by Sayyidina Ali. So there was no such thing. And Sayyida Aisha then retired from further politics and further involvement, because before that, Sayyida was actively involved, right? And majority of the Sahabas were actually her students. So there, and she was a mother of believers as well. And she was the most knowledgeable lady among the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. So therefore, she was actively involved. And from that time onwards, she actually take a little back, and she, in active politics, she didn't get involved. 10,000 combatants lay dead on both sides in the first civil war in Islam. And this was another success for the conspirators. It's weakened the Caliphate, the Caliph of, and the Caliph, and the stability of the empire in general created further discord among the Muslims at large. Any question? I'll take a, what do you call it, for a 30. Inna lillah. All right. There is, all right. We lost the voice. Thank you very much for telling me. So what I was saying about the clash between Sayyidina Muawiya and Sayyidina Ali was that Sayyidina Muawiya was the governor of Syria and was appointed by Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he was quite successful and popular. And he refused to take bayat. He refused that of bayat, that is, I accept him as a caliph, Ali radiallahu. The reason why he did not avenge the killers of Sayyidina Usman radiallahu, he did not took care of them. And so that was one thing he did. And I also told you that Sayyidina Muawiya, it belongs to the same tribe and is also the cousin of Sayyidina Usman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So that's something. And there was a difference of opinion regarding this issue between the two factions of the Muslims led. Now, one faction of Sayyidina Muawiya is saying, avenge and take qisas of Sayyidina Usman's killers. Sayyidina Muawiya's opinion is, Sayyidina Ali's opinion is that we're going to have reorganization, we're going to have stability, then I'm going to sort them out. So that was, 180 degrees, like both have got different opinions in, what do you call it, in this issue. Now, the senior companions had an agreement that surely, and that, they met each other, the both met each other, and the senior companions and discussed, and they said, okay, we'll have an agreement on something. Now, again, the conspirators, they're saying that, okay, these are companions, the old fellows, they're going to sort something out. So once they agree to something, so this going to cause a problem for us. And the public display of Sayyidina Osman's blood-stained shirt was being shown, and then what do you call it, dismissal of Sayyidina Muawiya by Ali radiallahu led to the Battle of Siffin. So this is the question. It's a 10 marks question which you see here, and the highlighted portions is the keywords. I give you 30 seconds to quickly note down the keywords of clash between Muawiya radiallahu anhu and Ali radiallahu ta'ala. I think that's this question we'll be able to finish today, and the next is the Battle of Siffin. Battle of Siffin, inshallah ta'ala, we'll do next time. And but let's finish so we done that, and now we move on to the next one. That is now they wanted the war, they wanted the battle, the conspirators, and then we all know that they displayed the shirt of Sayyidina Osman, and this eventually led to the battle between Sayyidina Muawiya and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. The Sahaba didn't wanted that battle to happen, but unfortunately it happened. And we'll discuss few points of it quickly, but we will revisit this Battle of Siffin again. Sayyidina Ali's army was around 70 to 90,000. Negotiations began. They didn't wanted to fight, and eventually the fighting erupted. And Sayyidina Ali's army being superior, they started to gain grounds, and Sayyidina Muawiya's army began to retreat. Muawiya radiallahu anhu's army brought the battle to a halt by tying the pages of the Quran on the spearheads. So this was a clever way, courtesy Sayyidina Amr bin al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the famous diplomat, the one who went to the to Negus as well, the court of Negus, to get the Muslims back from Abyssinia. So same Amr bin al-As, who is now an active member, we all know he participated an important role in Egypt and all that area in spread of Islam. So the court of arbitration was set up then, and they said that we will meet again in 658. And Abu Musa al-Ashari from Sayyidina Ali's side and Amr bin al-As from Sayyidina Muawiya's side, they said, we're going to be talking to each other and we'll sort this matter out. Then at this point, thousands of soldiers of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala broke away. And that rebel army of Sayyidina Ali came to be known as Kharijites or Khariji. And the negotiation failed, and causes are now in the shrouded in the mysteries of time and the conflicting reports as to who to blame. But the hidden hand of conspirators cannot be ruled out. And this is the caution. I want you to remember this for life. Okay. It is improper for us to take sides. So would the result in criticism in either one of them. So would you, if you take sides, like you're going to say, okay, Sayyidina Ali was wrong and Sayyidina Muawiya was right. Or you're going to say that Sayyidina Ali is right and Sayyidina Muawiya was wrong. Right? We are nobody to say that. Right? And we are nobody to decide that this event happened, this is the facts, and we move on. Right? We don't blame anyone. We don't take side with anyone. Right? So Both of them are great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right. So that's something, and this will make your life very easy. Believe me, if you remember this slide, this will make your life easy. And then we have the rivalry between the two continued until a short truce in 660, and then fighting on different fronts kept on going. Now, then the conspirators came up with a cunning plan. They said, okay, let's kill Ali radiallahu anhu, Amr bin al-As, and Muawiya radiallahu anhu, one day, same time, different places. I often say that even Tom Cruise cannot come up with such a clever plan. But the will of Allah, they cannot overcome the will of Allah, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason being because these three people are the top leadership of the Muslims at that time. Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Amr bin al-As, Sayyidina Muawiya, right? So they were attacked, and on the same night, and in a very synchronized way, Sayyidina Muawiya was not feeling well, so they attacked. They thought that Imam there in Dimishq is Muawiya radiallahu anhu, so he escaped, and the Imam was injured. Sayyidina Amr bin al-As was attacked as well, and he got injured. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was attacked, and he was fatally wounded. And on the 19th of Ramadan, 40 Hijrah, in 661, Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and the last rightly guided Caliph, succumbed to wounds, and he died as a martyr. So this was, my dear listeners, viewers, students, about the Caliphate of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. There will be one more session, that is a note on Kharajites and importance of Sayyidina Ali as a Caliph, and the importance of his martyrdom. So take good care of yourselves, and same, if you still have any questions, you can write it down, and please do revisit that, because that's a very important lesson and contains some important questions as well. So inshallah ta'ala, take good care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.